Welcome back to another Mike Rant. Mike, I like to rant, and today I'm going to be talking about something that, especially during the holiday season, is something that comes up a lot with families being apart, and that is air travel. Air travel can be interesting, to say the least, and not just in the airport security, but also in the flight itself. And the flight itself, how good of a flight you have very much depends on the type of people that you sit next to. I've been on quite a few flights with quite a few different types of people. Whether or not I have a good flight experience depends solely on the type of people that I'm sitting next to. And I've had really good experiences, and I've had really bad experiences. So I'm going to tell you guys about both of those types of experiences. Alright, so I'm going to start off with a negative story, go to two positive stories, and then end with a negative, because as we all know, the negative stories are a lot more interesting. Now, before I start any of these stories, I should say that I don't typically need to go to the bathroom that much when I'm on a flight. So while most people like the aisle seat, I would actually prefer the window seat because of the fact that you don't have people passing you every single time they have to go to the bathroom. But that's not what's the important part of the story. The important part of the story is the middle seat, because the middle seat is always the worst seat to be in, and either you're in the seat and you're stuck with no armrest, or there's someone in the middle seat using both armrests. And the second example is what happened with me on one flight. Not only is this guy using both of the armrests, but then I realized that because of the fact that it's a 6-hour flight from California to New York, there are TVs and there's controllers on the armrests themselves. He's got both arms on the controllers, so I plug in my headphones because I want to listen to some music. So as I'm listening to music, it all of a sudden gets super, super loud, and I jump, and the headphones jolt off of me. And I'm looking to my right, and I see this guy clearly saw me react, not doing anything. Not only is he controlling the volume, the channels keep on switching over and over and over and over again, and he's not even noticing. So I'm sitting there like, dude, what are you doing? And then I have to keep on trying to nudge my finger into the underneath his elbow to change the channel, because I'm like, excuse me, he's not listening to me, so I'm forcefully trying to change the channel or to get him to get his arm off the armrest. Luckily, he didn't do that the whole flight, but he just wasn't even responding to anything that I was saying. The next story actually worked out in my favor. I typically try to board the plane as soon as I can, so a lot of the times I'm the first one in my row, and I'm always interested to see, okay, who's gonna be sitting next to me now. The lady, probably in her 50s, comes down, and I see that she's looking at me like, excuse me, so I go, she's got the window seat, so I let her in, and I'm looking at the middle seat. I keep thinking, I'm like, oh, who's gonna sit there, and she leans over to me and she says, oh, by the way, I bought 2 tickets so no one would sit in the middle seat. Well, that's fantastic for me. I couldn't believe that someone would go through all that trouble just to avoid sitting next to somebody on a plane. But you know what? She paid for it. I benefited from it. That's all I gotta say about that. The last story I just told was about a woman who bought 2 seats, and this next one was about a woman who I predict also bought 2 seats, and rightfully so. Just to put it lightly, she was undeniably a very large woman. I was sitting on the aisle seat as usual. I get the aisle seat, and I see her walking, and then as she's walking and she's eyeing my row, I'm like, oh god, no, I don't want to be rude, but there's no way this can possibly be happening. So she goes, I get up because I need to get up in order to let her in. I let her in, she sits by the window, and I sit down. I'm like, okay, she's by the window, I'm in the aisle. So I guess whatever poor soul sits in the middle is gonna have to deal with that. But then they made the announcement the plane was about to take off, and I figured, okay, she must have bought 2 seats, and I very much appreciate the fact that she did that. Okay, so this story, my last story, is definitely the most elaborate story. I have the aisle seat once again. I typically, in all these stories, I'm pretty sure I've had the aisle seat. So I'm sitting there. As people are starting to board and take to their seats, I'm checking the time, and I'm like, okay, the plane's about to take off pretty soon. I keep looking to my left, and there's nobody in either two seats. And I think I did get lucky once where there was literally nobody sitting next to me. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, there's gonna be nobody sitting next to me. This is great. And then I went so far as to Snapchat the fact that there were two empty seats next to me. Bad idea, because then I see a mother and her two kids coming toward me. I've had to deal with little kids. I'm not really bothered by them, especially on red-eye flights, because of the fact that typically the kids are gonna fall asleep on the flight, so you're not really gonna be disturbed. But what was very interesting was actually after she had sat down, because she sat down, she acknowledged the fact that I thought that I was gonna get two seats. She goes, oh, whoops, you're the poor soul we're gonna sit next to. And I laughed and I said, it's okay. So as I'm sleeping though, there's two seats, and I'm like, okay, I'm assuming she's gonna sit with one of these kids in her lap. No, she doesn't do that. At first, the kids in her lap, of course, the kids are asking for food. She's got crackers, she's got juices, and she's got stuff for the kids. So one kid gets his own seat, and then eventually he starts to nod off. I see he's leaning up against his mother, he's leaning up against the window itself, and the other kid is starting to fall asleep on the mom's lap. But then I try to fall asleep, and over time, I sort of like just was not even aware of my surroundings. And I wake up for a second, and I look down on the floor. She had placed one of the kids on the floor of the plane, completely spread out. Now, a part of me is really, really jealous of this kid, but another part of me is like, is that allowed? Can you like put a kid on the floor? But I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna judge. I'm exhausted as it is. I'm gonna try to fall asleep. So as I start to fall asleep, I sort of try to like put my feet up like this on the seat in front of me and lean back and try to fall asleep. But when I wake up, I start to put my feet down, but then I sense that I probably shouldn't. I look down, and the kid is literally sleeping. He had shimmied his way underneath my legs. So I have my 2 feet literally perched on the seat in front of me so that I'm not putting my feet on the ground. And basically after that, I was wondering what the heck I should do. I started to drift back to sleep, and I decided to keep my feet up so that I wouldn't kick this kid. And then as I wake up, I look and I see that the flight attendant to my right, she's starting to like move away from me when she walks down. I'm like, what's going on? I look, the kid's sneakers, his feet are sticking out into the walkway, and I'm wondering if I should do anything. I'm like, well, I don't feel like I should, do anything. I don't want to wake up the mother. So that was basically just something that I did. And then eventually the mother woke up. She realized that her son was underneath me. She slid him back all the way, and I don't think he did toss and turn a little bit, but not too much. So, those are my 4 funniest stories. For anybody who's traveling home, happy travels. Hopefully you don't get stuck next to some of the people that I got stuck with, but if you do, just keep in mind they will make for funny stories in hindsight after the fact. So, happy holidays everybody, and thanks for watching.